Nobody expected it to flip that fast. One word, one moment, one shift in tone that went from casual banter to internet wildfire in under 30 seconds. And if you were watching that live stream when it happened, you felt it. The temperature changed. The laughter got tighter. The pauses got longer. And suddenly, what looked like just another unpredictable crossover between Blueface and Adin Ross turned into something people are still arguing about days later. Because this wasn't shouting, it wasn't a dramatic walk-off, it wasn't chairs flying or mics dropping, it was quieter than that. And sometimes the quiet tension hits harder. The word? Brand risk. It landed casually, but it didn't feel casual. Blueface leaned back, smirked slightly, let it hang in the air just long enough for the chat to explode. And in that split second, you could almost see the internet dividing in real time. Was it a joke? Was it a subtle shot? Was it commentary on streaming culture? Or was it something personal disguised as humor? Adin laughed, but the laugh wasn't loud. It wasn't carefree, it was controlled. And if you've watched enough live stream culture unfold, you know exactly what that kind of laugh means. That's the laugh of someone processing. That's the laugh of someone deciding how to respond. Because here's the thing about two personalities like this colliding on camera. Both of them understand virality. Both of them understand narrative control. And both of them know that when you're live, there is no rewind button. The clip spread within minutes, slowed down versions, zoomed in edits, side-by-side comparisons. People analyzing eye contact like it was courtroom evidence. A fan saying, "Did you catch that energy shift?" Others insisting, "Y'all are reaching, it's just content." But here's what made it different. Neither of them immediately cleared it up. No instant, "We're good." No quick follow-up tweet. No laughing it off the next day. Just silence. And silence in internet culture? Silence is strategy. Within hours, brand risk wasn't just a phrase, it was a trending topic. It was a debate, it was a symbol of something bigger than just a comment. Because when a rapper known for chaos calls something, or someone, a risk, and a streamer known for unpredictable broadcast doesn't brush it off, you don't just get a viral clip, you get a narrative shift. Now fans are asking, was that the moment the collaboration cracked? Was it subtle ego? Was it calculated tension for views? Or did something happen off-camera that nobody saw? Because here's what makes this situation so dangerous in today's content ecosystem. When two massive personalities collide publicly, the aftermath doesn't just live on the stream, it multiplies. Reaction channels monetize it, fan bases polarize, old clips resurface, and suddenly what might have been a passing comment becomes a turning point. And that's where we are right now, at a turning point. Because if this was staged, it was genius-level viral engineering. But if it wasn't, then we might have just witnessed the beginning of a real split between two internet forces who understand exactly how power works online. And trust me, once the internet starts picking sides, things don't cool down, they escalate. So what really happened in that moment? Why did that one phrase hit so differently? And why did the reactions afterward feel more strategic than emotional? We're breaking down everything. The body language, the history, the power dynamic, the reactions, and the twist that made people question whether this was just banter or something deeper. Because if you think this was just another chaotic live stream moment, you might have missed what really shifted, and once you see it, you won't unsee it. To really understand why that one moment felt so charged, you have to understand who was sitting across from who. This wasn't random. This wasn't two unknown creators clashing for attention. This was Blueface, a rapper who built his identity on unpredictability, sitting in the same digital space as Adin Ross, a streamer whose entire brand thrives on live, unfiltered chaos. Yet that combination alone is combustible. Blueface didn't come into the industry quietly. From the moment he went viral with his offbeat delivery and controversial persona, he leaned into disruption. Interviews where he said the unexpected, live streams where he did the unpredictable. Social media moments that blurred the line between trolling and reality. He understands one thing extremely well: attention is leverage. Meanwhile, Adin Ross didn't climb to the top of livestream culture by accident. He mastered the art of real-time engagement, bringing celebrities into unpredictable environments, letting conversations breathe just long enough to feel raw, building a fan base that lives for uncomfortable viral moments. He understands something just as important: live moments are power. Now here's where the dynamic gets interesting. When rappers appear on streams, there's always an invisible exchange happening. The rapper brings cultural weight, the streamer brings audience access, both benefit. But beneath that collaboration is a quiet question: who actually needs who more? And that's not a small question, because in today's ecosystem, a viral stream appearance can boost music streams overnight. At the same time, having a major artist on stream can spike viewership into the millions. It's mutual. But mutual doesn't always mean equal. And when two personalities who both understand influence sit across from each other, subtle tension can exist even before a single word is said. Now let's talk history. Blueface has never been known to filter himself for platform safety. He doesn't soften opinions to protect sponsorship optics. That unpredictability is part of his appeal. But it also makes him complicated in brand conversations. Adin, on the other hand, operates inside a world where platform policies, sponsor relationships, and community guidelines matter deeply. Streaming is immediate, but it's also calculated behind the scenes. So when the phrase brand risk enters the room, it doesn't float there neutrally, it lands differently depending on perspective. For some fans, being called a risk is a compliment. It suggests authenticity, edge, rawness. For others, it implies liability, instability, someone who could jeopardize partnerships or platforms. And that's why the moment felt layered. Because whether Blueface meant it casually or not, the term lives at the intersection of both of their identities. Blueface embodies unpredictability. Adin manages unpredictability. See the difference? Now let's zoom out. Leading up to this stream, there were already subtle indicators of tension in the wider creator economy. Discussions about streamers becoming gatekeepers for music exposure. Conversations about rappers leveraging stream audiences strategically. And occasionally, just jokes. Jokes about streamers needing rappers for cultural credibility. Jokes about rappers needing streamers for digital relevance. Most of those jokes stayed playful, until this moment. Because when Blueface leaned back and delivered that comment, it didn't sound like a random joke floating in space. It sounded like commentary. And Adin's reaction, that tight smile, that measured response, suggested awareness. Not confusion. Awareness. Now here's another factor people overlook. When you're live, the ego operates differently. You're not just talking to the person across from you, you're performing for thousands, sometimes millions, in real time. Every reaction becomes part of your public persona. If Adin laughs it off too hard, he looks weak. If he escalates aggressively, he looks emotional. If Blueface backtracks, he loses edge. If he doubles down, he fuels tension. So both of them were balancing something delicate in that moment. Image. And that's why fans felt it. Because it wasn't just about the words. It was about how two high-profile personalities navigated a split-second test of status live on camera. Now let's address something important. Neither of them publicly declared war. There were no explicit insults, no screaming matches, no threats. And yet, the internet treated it like a turning point. Why? Because modern digital drama doesn't require shouting. It requires ambiguity. Ambiguity is what fuels engagement, and this situation was full of it. The silence afterward made it louder. The unfollow added intrigue. The indirect quotes layered meaning, and suddenly, a single livestream moment became a multi-day conversation. Now here's the question that keeps resurfacing. Was this tension real, or was it a masterclass in viral synergy? Because, let's be honest, both Blueface and Adin understand that controversy boosts numbers. Views spike when tension exists. Clips circulate faster when conflict is implied. But here's the twist in the background narrative. If this was strategic, it was extremely subtle. There was no overacting, no obvious "this is staged" energy, just a small shift. And sometimes the smallest shifts create the biggest waves. By the end of that stream, something had changed. Maybe not publicly declared, maybe not officially confirmed, but perceptibly shifted. And in the world of digital influence, perception is reality. So now we move into the moment where everything intensified. Because what happened next didn't involve yelling, it involved reactions. And reactions, in today's ecosystem, can amplify tension far beyond the original moment. The stream didn't explode. It tightened. And that's what made it powerful. If you go back and rewatch the moment, and thousands of people did, you'll notice something subtle but undeniable. When Blueface delivered the brand risk line, the room didn't erupt. It paused. There was a microsecond where both men understood that something had shifted, not in volume, in energy. Blueface leaned back like he had just dropped a harmless observation. Casual, detached, almost amused. Adin's body language changed slightly. His shoulders stiffened, his smile narrowed, and then he laughed. But it wasn't the loud, carefree laugh that usually fills his streams. It was controlled, measured. That's when chat detonated. "Yo, why did that feel personal?" "He meant that." "Nah, it's just jokes." You can tell he didn't like that. Within seconds, the livestream wasn't just entertainment, it became analysis. Viewers weren't watching anymore. They were dissecting. Now here's where the conflict actually starts, because Blueface didn't stop there. He followed up with another comment, subtle but layered, about how some people build platforms off controversy. That sentence alone was enough to light the fuse. Because in the world of live streaming, controversy isn't accidental. It's often part of the formula. Adin responded carefully. He didn't escalate. He didn't insult back. Instead, he leaned into something more strategic. He said, "I don't need chaos. The numbers speak." That line was subtle dominance. It reframed the exchange. It shifted from personality to metrics. Now we weren't just talking about ego, we were talking about influence. And here's where the first twist begins to form. After that line, Blueface laughed louder, but not in a mocking way, in a dismissive way. Then he said, "sensitive." One word, and suddenly the temperature rose again. Because calling someone sensitive during a live exchange is strategic. It shifts perception, it implies overreaction. It places the emotional burden on the other person. Chat went wild. "By sensitive is crazy." He doubling down. "Adin, don't let that slide." Now, here's what's interesting. Adin didn't argue. He didn't shout. He leaned forward, looked directly at Blueface, and said, "Careful who you label." That was it. No threats, no screaming. But the weight of that sentence lingered. Because in internet culture, ambiguity is more powerful than explicit conflict. The tension wasn't explosive, it was controlled, which made it more intriguing. And then the stream ended. Not abruptly, not dramatically, just ended. And that's when the real conflict began. Because after the stream, neither of them clarified anything. No, all love. No, we were just joking. No Instagram story laughing it off. Instead, silence, and silence fuels speculation. Within hours, clips were circulating with zoom-ins on facial expressions. When TikTok edits slowed down the moment to 0.5 times speed. Commentary channels went live analyzing tone shifts like it was game footage. And then the first twist hit. Adin unfollowed Blueface. Blueface didn't respond publicly. Now, whether that unfollow was emotional, strategic, or meaningless, it didn't matter. Perception did the rest, because once fans noticed it, the narrative evolved. Now this wasn't about a comment, it was about fallout. Threads began surfacing older clips. Moments where Blueface joked about streamers. Moments where Adin teased rappers. Everything was being reinterpreted through this new lens. And here's the twist nobody expected. A mutual associate, not directly involved, tweeted, "Funny how people forget who benefits most from these collabs. No names, no context, but fans filled in the blanks instantly. Now the conversation shifted from tension to leverage. Who gains more exposure? Who needs the other more? Is this about ego or about ecosystem power? Because here's what makes this different from typical internet beef. Neither side escalated aggressively. Both moved strategically. Blueface stayed quiet but posted studio clips, signaling he wasn't rattled. Adin went live again but avoided direct confrontation, signaling control. This wasn't chaos, it was positioning, and positioning is more dangerous than shouting. Because when two personalities start repositioning themselves publicly, it suggests something deeper than banter. Now here's where the conflict becomes layered. Fans began debating what brand risk really meant. Was Blueface implying Adin's platform is volatile? Was he speaking about himself? Was he commenting on sponsors? Or was it a subtle flex? Positioning himself as untouchable regardless of brand optics. That ambiguity kept the fire alive. And then came the moment that deepened everything. During a late-night stream, Adin read a donation that said, "Are you cutting Blueface off?" He paused, longer than expected. Then he said, "I don't cut people off, I just adjust." Adjust. That word carried weight, because adjusting implies change. It implies recalibration. And when a streamer who thrives on collaboration starts talking about adjustment, it suggests something shifted behind the scenes. Now, the audience isn't just watching drama, they're watching evolution. And here's the real first twist. This may not have been about disrespect at all. It may have been about power boundaries. Because when personalities grow larger, they start protecting space differently. And maybe, just maybe, that moment on stream was the first public signal that their dynamic wasn't as balanced as it once felt. Now we're not talking about a fight. We're talking about recalibration. And recalibration can permanently alter collaborations. The internet sensed it. That's why it didn't die in 24 hours. That's why hashtags kept trending, because even without shouting, even without insults, something shifted. And once something shifts publicly between two high-profile personalities, it rarely goes back exactly the same. By the time 48 hours had passed, this wasn't just a viral clip anymore, it was a case study. The internet had moved from reacting to choosing sides. And once audiences start choosing sides, the situation stops being a moment. It becomes momentum, and supporters of Blueface leaned into the idea that he was simply being honest. He speaks his mind. That's not disrespect, that's authenticity, one viral post declared. Others argued that in hip-hop culture, blunt commentary isn't an attack, it's personality. Meanwhile, fans of Adin Ross framed the exchange differently. There's a difference between edgy and dismissive. One trending thread insisted, "You don't undermine the platform you're sitting on." And here's where escalation got interesting. It wasn't either of them speaking loudly, it was everyone else speaking for them. Reaction channels uploaded breakdowns with dramatic thumbnails. The energy shifted. You can see it in his face. He didn't like that. Every creator had a take. Some slowed the footage down to analyze Blueface's smirk. Others zoomed in on Adin's micro-expressions. And here's what made it escalate. The interpretations contradicted each other. Half the internet believed Blueface was dominating the moment. The other half believed Adin handled it calmly and strategically. Now, the narrative had two competing realities, and that's when the first outside voice entered. A prominent streamer, not directly involved, tweeted, "Respect the host when you're in their space." No tag, but the timing was impossible to ignore. Minutes later, a rapper loosely associated with Blueface posted, "Stop being soft, not everything is an attack." Now, it wasn't just two personalities, it was two ecosystems. Streamer culture, rapper culture, and both operate differently. In streaming, community guidelines, sponsor safety, and audience engagement matter deeply. In rap culture, bluntness, dominance, and authenticity often carry weight. When those two worlds overlap, friction can happen, even unintentionally. But here's where the shocking reveal emerges. This situation may not have been about offense at all. It may have been about positioning. Because shortly after the backlash peaked, something subtle changed. Adin's next livestream featured a different guest, another artist, and the energy was noticeably smoother. Controlled, friendly, no tension. Clips of that stream circulated with captions like, "See the difference." Now fans were comparing. Comparisons create hierarchy. Hierarchy creates pressure. Meanwhile, Blueface posted a short studio snippet with a caption that read, "Risk takers don't fold." Gone within an hour. But screenshots never disappear. Now the word risk wasn't just a label. It was becoming identity. And that's when fans started asking the deeper question, was Blueface rejecting the idea of being boxed into brand safety? Or was he subtly framing himself as untouchable? Because here's something people overlook. In digital influence, reputation management is everything. Streamers operate in a world where partnerships can shift overnight. Artists operate in a world where controversy can sometimes increase streams. Different risk models, different reward systems. So when the phrase brand risk entered the conversation, it didn't just hit emotionally, it hit structurally, it touched the economics of their worlds. Now here's the escalation moment that changed tone again. During a Q&A, Adin was asked directly, "Was that personal?" He paused, looked at the camera. Adin said, "Some things don't need explaining." That sentence alone reignited debate, because refusing to explain can feel more loaded than over-explaining. Was he protecting something? Was he choosing maturity? Or was he implying there was more behind the scenes? Meanwhile, Blueface remained publicly unbothered. No direct address, no rebuttal. Just business as usual. And sometimes that's the most strategic move of all, because silence creates mystique. Mystique fuels speculation, and speculation drives engagement. But here's the shocking layer people started noticing. Neither of them escalated aggressively. There was no public insult exchange, no Twitter rant, no Instagram live meltdown. That absence of chaos felt intentional, which led to the biggest theory yet. Was this calculated tension? Because let's be honest, when two massive digital personalities create a moment that trends for days, that's influence. And influence can be accidental, but it can also be engineered. Now, I'm not saying this was staged. There's no proof of that. But what we can observe is this. Both understood how to navigate it without damaging themselves. Both protected their image. Both avoided direct hostility. That's not emotional chaos. That's controlled movement. And control in public tension suggests awareness. Now fans are split into three camps. It was harmless banter blown out of proportion. It was subtle disrespect handled strategically. It was intentional viral synergy. And the longer neither side fully clarifies, the longer all three theories survive. Because ambiguity is oxygen. And right now, this situation is still breathing. By day 3, the moment had evolved from a livestream clip into a full-blown conversation about power, platform, and perception. This wasn't just about Blueface and Adin Ross anymore. It was about what happens when two different influence systems collide in public. And the public, they weren't neutral. They were loud. Hashtags like #BrandRisk and #StreamTension kept trending in waves. TikTok creators recreated the moment with skits. Twitter threads turned into mini think pieces about respect and collaborations. But here's where it got serious. Industry conversations quietly entered the chat. Clips of marketing professionals discussing brand safety started circulating. Podcast hosts debated whether streamers and rappers operate under the same reputational expectations. Analysts broke down the economics of controversy. Now, this wasn't just drama. It was a case study in digital power. One viral tweet summed it up. Rappers monetize chaos. Streamers monetize control. That's the clash. That line alone racked up thousands of reposts, and here's the thing. Neither Blueface nor Adin confirmed any feud. Yet brands were watching. Fans noticed something subtle. Adin's sponsored content rollout continued smoothly. No interruptions, no visible brand hesitation. Meanwhile, Blueface leaned harder into music promotion. Studio sessions, snippets, performance clips. It looked like two different response strategies. Not reactive, adaptive. And that's when the audience psychology shifted. Instead of asking who disrespected who, people started asking who handled it better. Now we're in dangerous territory because once the internet starts grading reactions, the original moment becomes secondary. Performance becomes the focus. And in performance culture, perception matters more than intent. Reaction channels kept dissecting it. Adin stayed composed. Blueface stood his ground. He shouldn't have said sensitive. He shouldn't have reacted at all. The narrative refused to settle, and that's because neither side gave it closure. But here's where industry voices quietly amplified things. A popular live stream host, known for navigating controversial guests, said during his show, "When you invite someone into your space, respect goes both ways." Again, no names, but the timing made it obvious. On the flip side, a music industry insider posted, "Authenticity doesn't need approval." Now we had ideological camps forming. Respect the platform, stay authentic. Control the chaos. Embrace the chaos. This wasn't personal anymore, it was philosophical. And that's why it lasted longer than a normal viral moment. Because when a debate taps into identity, how someone defines themselves publicly, it doesn't fade in 24 hours. Now let's talk about the audience split. You could see it clearly in comment sections. One side praised Adin for staying calm and not escalating. Another praised Blueface for not apologizing or backtracking. Both interpretations framed their chosen side as dominant, which means, in a strange way, both won in their own ecosystems. But here's the quiet tension beneath it all. Neither of them has streamed together again. No announcement, no reunion, no joint clarification, just space. And in the creator economy, space can signal adjustment. Remember that word Adin used? Adjust. Adjustment can mean boundaries. It can mean distance. It can mean nothing at all. But the internet reads into it regardless. Now here's the final layer of this section. A clip resurfaced from months ago where Blueface joked about how some platforms panic over nothing. At the time, it was harmless. Now it was interpreted as foresight. Was that mindset already there? Was this collision inevitable? Because when two personalities both operate from confidence, even subtle friction can feel magnified. And that's what makes this situation fascinating. No insults, no public war, no explosive meltdown, just a moment. A word, a reaction, and days of analysis. Sometimes drama doesn't scream. It lingers. And lingering tension can be more powerful than loud conflict. Now we arrive at the biggest question. Was this a one-time awkward moment, amplified by fans? Or was it the first visible crack in a collaboration dynamic that quietly shifted behind the scenes? Because if they stream together again and laugh it off, the narrative resets. But if they don't, then that single phrase becomes history's turning point. And right now, the internet is still watching. Just when it felt like the tension might slowly fade into the endless scroll of internet memory, something subtle reignited it. Not an argument, not a diss track, not a public call-out. Something quieter. Blueface updated his Instagram bio, 3 words. Calculated, not careless. No emojis, no context, no explanation. Within minutes, screenshots flooded X and TikTok. Fans instantly tied it back to the stream moment. Was he implying the brand risk comment was intentional? Was he saying every move he makes is strategic? Or was it just coincidence? Because in the world of online personalities, timing is rarely accidental. Now here's where it gets more interesting. About an hour later, during a relaxed late-night stream, Adin Ross read a viewer comment that said, are you and Blueface cool?" He paused. Not dramatically, not angrily, just long enough for chat to freeze. Then he said, "I'm cool with everybody who respects the space." And moved on. That was it. But that sentence echoed. Respects the space. Now fans were dissecting semantics. Was he implying disrespect? Was he drawing a boundary? Or was he just speaking generally? Because here's what makes this moment powerful. Neither side has escalated, but neither side has softened either. And when two influential personalities choose distance over reconciliation, it suggests recalibration. Now here's the twist that changed the conversation again. A backstage clip surfaced, not dramatic, not explosive. Just a short video showing them leaving separately after the stream ended. No laughter, no obvious tension. Just separate exits. In isolation, it meant nothing. But in context, it fed the narrative. And narratives online don't need proof. They need momentum. Meanwhile, industry watchers started noticing something else. No new collaboration announcements. No playful social media interactions. Just silence. And silence between frequent collaborators is noticeable. Now here's the cliffhanger. During another stream days later, Adin casually said, "Some bridges you don't burn, you just stop crossing." It wasn't directed, and it wasn't accusatory, but the chat instantly reacted. Because that line didn't sound temporary, it sounded permanent. And Blueface? He stayed publicly unbothered. Studio sessions, music previews, business as usual, no acknowledgement, which raises the final question. Was this a harmless moment amplified by fans? A subtle clash of egos handled maturely? A strategic viral synergy neither side will admit? Or the quiet beginning of a permanent shift in collaboration? Because sometimes the biggest drama isn't explosive, it's the tension that never resolves. And right now, nothing has resolved. No public reconciliation, no confirmation of fallout, just adjustment. And in the digital influence world, adjustment can mean everything. Now we're at the edge of uncertainty. If they appear together again soon, this becomes a legendary viral moment that boosted both sides. If they don't, then that single phrase, brand risk, becomes the timestamp where things quietly changed. And until one of them directly addresses it, the speculation lives because the internet doesn't forget energy shifts, it archives them. And this one, it's archived. Now step back for a second. Forget the clip. Forget the word. Forget the trending hashtag. Look at the bigger picture. When Blueface and Adin Ross shared that space, what we were really watching wasn't just banter. We were watching two influence models collide. And that's why this moment refuses to disappear. Because underneath the surface, this wasn't about disrespect. It was about positioning. In the digital era, influence works like currency. Every appearance, every collaboration, every viral moment either strengthens your perceived leverage or weakens it. Blueface operates in a lane where unpredictability is power. The more raw, the more unfiltered, the more headlines, the stronger his persona feels. Chaos in that ecosystem can boost streams and keep relevance alive. Adin operates in a space where chaos must be controlled. Streaming platforms are live, immediate, monetized through partnerships, community guidelines, structured content flow. There's a balance between spontaneity and sustainability. So when the phrase brand risk dropped, it hit at the intersection of those two worlds. One side thrives off risk, the other manages risk. That's not a personality flaw, that's structural difference. And here's why the tension lingered. Neither of them backed down. Neither of them overreacted. Both subtly reinforced their identity. Blueface leaned into indifference. Adin leaned into composure. That's not emotional chaos, that's brand reinforcement. Now let's talk psychology. When viewers watch live content, they don't just consume it. They subconsciously assign dominance. They read micro-expressions. They decide who won, even if no one was competing. That's why the debate exploded. Half the audience saw Blueface as bold and unapologetic. Half saw Adin as calm and in control. And when both interpretations can coexist, the narrative multiplies instead of fading. But here's the quiet truth most people miss. Moments like this are rarely about the moment itself. They're about what it represents. To some, this represented a rapper refusing to adjust for streaming culture. To others, it represented a streamer defending the value of his platform. And that philosophical clash keeps the story alive. Now let's address the possibility nobody can confirm but everyone whispers about. Was it strategic? There is no proof this was staged, but what we can observe is that both individuals handled the aftermath with calculated restraint. No reckless tweets, no emotional rants, no messy escalation, just subtle positioning. And in influence warfare, restraint can be more powerful than reaction. Because when you don't escalate, you control the temperature. And both of them controlled it. Now fast forward. If they collaborate again, laugh it off and address it casually, the moment becomes legendary. A viral spark that boosted engagement on both sides. If they don't, then history quietly records this as the pivot point, with a subtle fracture, the invisible line where energy changed. And sometimes that's how digital shifts happen. Not with explosions, with pauses. Now let's talk audience behavior. Why did this grip people so hard? Because viewers are hyper-aware of authenticity. The second something feels slightly real, slightly tense, it activates curiosity. People crave unscripted moments. They crave authenticity leaking through performance. That's what this felt like. Even if it wasn't hostile, even if it wasn't intentional, it felt unscripted. And unscripted equals viral. Now here's the final layer. Influence ecosystems are constantly evolving. Streamers are becoming media networks. Rappers are becoming independent brands. Collaborations aren't just about entertainment anymore, they're about leverage. And leverage is delicate. And when two powerful brands interact, even a single word can test boundaries. Not because it's dramatic, but because it exposes dynamic. Right now, nothing explosive has happened since. No diss track, no official statement, no reunion, just distance. And distance invites interpretation. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's everything. But here's what we know for sure. The internet doesn't forget moments that feel different. And that moment felt different. It felt like something recalibrated. Whether temporarily or permanently, we don't know. But until one of them addresses it directly, the question remains suspended. Was it harmless? Was it strategic? Was it subtle ego? Or was it simply two strong personalities navigating live energy in real time? The truth is probably less dramatic than the internet wants, but perception? Perception is powerful. And perception turned that single phrase into a multi-day debate. That's influence, that's narrative, and that's why we're still talking about it. Now I want to hear from you. Was that brand risk moment just harmless banter blown way out of proportion? Or did you feel that shift too? Be honest, but when you watch that clip, did the energy change? Or are people reading too deep into it? Do you think Blueface meant it as a subtle shot? Or was he simply being blunt, the way he always is? And what about Adin Ross? Did he handle it perfectly? Or did that pause say more than words ever could? Drop your real opinion in the comments, not the safe answer. The real one. Because moments like this don't just trend. They reveal dynamics, and I want to know which side you're on. Team, it was nothing? Team, that was personal? Or team, this was strategic? If you caught something in that clip that most people missed, point it out. If you think this was genius-level content synergy, explain why. And if you believe there's more happening behind the scenes that hasn't surfaced yet, tell us your theory. Make sure you like this video if you want updates the second anything new happens. Subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Because in the world of live stream culture and hip-hop personalities, tension doesn't disappear. It evolves. Turn on notifications because if they collaborate again, or if one of them finally addresses it directly, we're breaking it down immediately. And remember, sometimes the loudest drama isn't the one with yelling. It's the one where nobody says exactly what they're thinking. And this story, it might not be finished yet.